Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today, all about social intelligence.
Ooh, I like that.
So today we're going to be looking at Social Intelligence
Yes.
by Daniel Goleman.
The new science of human relationships.
That's right,
Yeah.
The New Science of Human Relationships.
It's a fascinating book.
And we're going to be kind of jumping into some excerpts from the book
Yeah.
and looking at some really interesting things that I think will be very relevant to all of us.
Absolutely.
I think we can all agree that relationships are important.
Yes, very much so.
But did you know that they can be just as impactful on your health
Right.
as diet and exercise?
Yeah. We all kind of have an intuitive sense that relationships are important.
Right.
But this book really dives deep into how crucial they actually are for our well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at all sorts of relationships today.
Yes.
Marriage.
Uh-huh.
We're going to be looking at
Parent-child.
parent-child relationships.
All sorts of things.
And we're even going to be looking at
Prison dynamic.
prison dynamics
Yeah.
and how social intelligence affects that whole world.
It's amazing how it kind of permeates all these different areas of life.
It really does.
Yeah.
So why don't we get started with, one of the most important, I think,
Go ahead.
takeaways from the book is that we as humans
Yes,
are inherently social creatures.
absolutely. Goleman really hits on that point right from the start.
Right.
He says that we're wired for connection.
Yes.
It's in our DNA.
And he even highlights a study,
Oh, yes.
a 75-year Harvard study.
The famous Harvard study
A famous Harvard study.
that tracked hundreds of people over their lifetimes,
Right.
and guess what they found?
What did they find?
The single most important factor in predicting happiness and longevity was
I'm waiting.
close relationships.
Wow.
Close, positive relationships.
More than wealth or fame?
More than wealth, more than fame, or
That's genetics?
even genetics.
So that's huge.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, so it's not just about feeling good. When we have good
Wow.
relationships.
It's not just about feeling good, it's about being healthy.
Yes, it's about our actual
It impacts our physical health.
physical health.
It's remarkable.
Wow. So how does that work?
Well, Goleman explains that those strong social bonds, they act like a buffer
Okay.
against stress and disease.
Go.
When we have those positive connections, our body's stress response system doesn't get triggered as easily.
Oh,
And on the flip side, toxic relationships,
Yeah.
they can be incredibly detrimental to our health.
oh wow.
Goleman even compares them to
Did the what?
smoking or high blood pressure.
Oh my gosh.
They create chronic stress that wears down our bodies over time.
So he's saying that being in a bad relationship can be just as bad as smoking.
In a way, yes.
Wow.
He's not saying it's exactly the same, but
Right.
the impact on our physical health
Yeah.
can be very similar.
That's intense.
It is, and he actually gives some examples in the book
Like-
to illustrate this point. He talks about Jane, who had a lot of relationship struggles throughout her life,
Oh, yeah.
and she ended up experiencing declining health, both physically and mentally.
Wow.
Then he contrasts her with Jill, who had a really strong support system,
Okay.
and she thrived both emotionally and physically.
So two very different outcomes.
Gives very different outcomes
Based on
based on the quality of their relationship.
the quality of their relationship.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that social connection is not just a luxury, it's essential for our well-being.
So we literally need those good relationships to be healthy.
It seems so.
Wow.
That's what the research suggests.
That is fascinating.
It is, isn't it?
So, speaking of relationships, I'm curious about what Goleman has to say about marriage.
Yes, marriage is a big one.
It is a big one, and I think it's an area where social intelligence can really make or break things.
I agree.
And I know he kind of talks about this pattern that he sees.
Yeah, he observes this pattern, and I want to be clear that it's not a generalization,
Okay.
but it's something he's noticed where sometimes men tend to focus more on personal growth
Okay.
than on the connection itself in a marriage.
So it's like they're focused on their own journey,
Right.
and they're not paying attention to the fact that they're on a shared path.
Exactly. It's like they're missing the shared journey aspect of it.
Yes.
And that can create problems.
Right. And I know he also talks about how women are often more negatively impacted
Yes.
by this imbalance.
Yeah, research shows that women tend to be more sensitive to relationship stress,
Okay.
and it can really take a toll on their well-being,
Wow.
both emotionally and physically.
And I think he even mentions
So-
studies that link stress in a woman's marriage to her cholesterol levels,
That's right, her cholesterol levels.
which is fascinating.
It's a very tangible example of how our emotional lives
Right.
impact our physical health.
Wow. So what's the antidote to this?
Yeah.
What can couples do?
Well, Goleman suggests prioritizing two key things: empathy and forgiveness.
Okay, empathy, I get that.
Yeah, empathy is about putting yourself in your partner's shoes,
Right.
really trying to understand their perspective,
Yeah.
even if you don't agree with it.
But forgiveness, yeah, it can be tough.
It can be, especially when you're feeling hurt or resentful.
Yes.
But Goleman argues that holding on to anger and resentment, it just keeps us trapped in that negativity.
Oh,
Forgiveness is about releasing that burden
okay.
and allowing ourselves to move forward.
So it's not about saying that what happened was okay.
No, not at all.
It's about choosing to let go of that negative energy.
Exactly.
So you can move on.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Oh, that's a really good way to look at it.
I think so.
So I think all of this really ties back to this idea of social intelligence,
It does.
which seems to be like the heart of the book.
Yes, the core concept.
But what does it actually mean?
Well, Goleman defines social intelligence as our ability to understand human behavior and navigate relationships effectively.
So it's like having this, sixth sense for social situations.
You could say that. It's
Yeah.
about picking up on those subtle cues,
Right.
reading emotions, responding in ways that build trust and connection.
And is this something we're born with?
That's a great question. And the answer is
Is it?
it's both.
Okay.
We have a certain biological predisposition for social intelligence,
Okay.
but it's also something we can develop and improve upon.
Oh, okay. So it's like a skill
Exactly, like any skill.
that we can cultivate.
The more we practice,
Yeah.
the better we get.
So how do we do that?
Well, Goleman offers a bunch of practical techniques in the book
Fair.
for boosting our social intelligence.
Give me one.
One technique is called attunement.
Attunement.
It's about being present and engaged in interactions,
Okay.
really paying attention to both verbal and nonverbal cues.
So it's more than just listening passively.
It is.
It's actively trying to understand the other person's experience.
Yes, you're trying to tune into their wavelength,
Oh, I like it.
to connect with them on a deeper level.
That's good.
And Goleman suggests two specific ways to cultivate attunement.
Okay, let's hear it.
First, try recalling similar personal experiences when someone is sharing their story.
Okay.
It helps you connect with their emotions on a deeper level.
Oh, that's good.
And second,
Second,
this might sound simple, smile more often.
wait, smiling more can boost my social intelligence.
It can.
I can do that.
It's called the happy face advantage.
Okay.
Our brains are wired to respond positively to smiles.
Really?
It creates an instant sense of connection,
Wow.
even between strangers.
I'm smiling right now.
Good.
That's great advice.
It's a simple but powerful technique.
It is. So attunement's one.
Attunement is one.
What's another?
Another crucial skill is recognizing and transforming unwanted emotion.
Okay, so my own emotions and the emotions of others.
Exactly. Both our own and those of others.
That's tricky.
It can be, but it's essential for healthy relationships.
Okay. How do we do that?
Well, it starts with understanding how our brains work.
Okay.
We have two main neural pathways,
Okay.
the low road and the high road.
Okay, so the low road's like the fast track.
The low road is responsible for our immediate emotional reactions.
Okay.
It's automatic, like a reflex.
Got it.
The high road, on the other hand,
Yes.
that's where our rational thinking happens.
Okay.
It's slower, it's more deliberate.
So when I react really quickly without thinking, that's my low road.
That's the low road taking over.
Gotcha. And then if I take a moment to pause and think, that's the high road kicking in.
Exactly, you're engaging your prefrontal cortex.
Okay, so how do we train our high road?
Good question. Goleman uses a fascinating example
Okay.
to illustrate how we can reframe our emotional responses.
Okay.
He describes showing people a photo of a woman crying,
Okay.
and most people automatically assume sadness.
Right.
They picture a funeral,
Right.
but then he asks them to look closer,
Okay.
and he points out details that suggest it might actually be a wedding.
Oh.
And suddenly their perception shifts,
Wow.
and the sadness transforms into joy.
So the same image,
The same image,
but two completely
two
different
completely different emotional responses
interpretations.
based on our perspective.
That's wild.
It shows how powerful our minds are.
Yeah, and how much our perspective shapes our reality.
Absolutely.
So how do we apply that to real life?
Well, it's about training ourselves to recognize
Right.
when our low road is leading us astray
Got it.
and consciously choosing a more positive interpretation.
Okay.
It's like building a mental muscle
I like that.
that allows us to pause, assess the situation,
Right.
and choose a more thoughtful response.
So instead of just reacting,
Yes.
we take a breath.
Take a breath.
We look at the situation.
Look at the situation from different angles.
And then we choose how we want to respond.
Exactly.
That is so powerful.
It gives us agency
I like that.
in our emotional lives.
That is really interesting.
It is. And, speaking of interesting, Goleman goes on to explore some really surprising applications of
Yeah.
social intelligence.
Like what?
Well, he delves into a realm you might not expect.
Oh,
Criminal justice reform.
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a fascinating connection.
I would not have thought of that.
Most people don't, but he makes a really compelling case.
Okay. So tell me, how does social intelligence fit into the world of prisons?
Well, he starts by asking this thought-provoking question.
Okay.
What if instead of rehabilitating traditional prisons, actually intensify negative social patterns?
Oh, that's scary.
It is a scary thought, but it makes sense when you think about the environment.
Right.
Traditional prisons, they're often very harsh,
Yeah.
very isolating.
Right.
They don't exactly foster healthy social interactions.
Right. So it's like a vicious cycle.
It can be people go in with poor social skills
Right.
and they come out even worse off.
Because the environment just reinforces those
Exactly.
negative patterns.
It reinforces those negative patterns.
Wow.
But Goleman also offers a glimmer of hope.
Okay, good. I need to hope.
He describes this treatment prison in Missouri.
A treatment prison.
Yes.
Okay.
And they take a very different approach.
Oh, tell me about this.
Instead of focusing on punishment and isolation,
Okay.
they prioritize building positive relationships
Oh.
and teaching emotional regulation skills.
Interesting.
They've created an environment that feels more like a supportive community
Okay.
than a traditional prison.
That's amazing.
It is, and
Right.
the results are quite remarkable.
Really? What kind of results are they seeing?
Well, inmates who participate in this program have significantly lower reoffending rates
Wow.
compared to those in traditional prisons.
So it's actually working.
It seems to be.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's proof that nurturing social intelligence can
Mm.
have a profound impact,
Even in the most challenging environment.
even in the most challenging environment.
Yeah, we've covered so much ground already.
I know we have.
And I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
There's definitely a lot more to unpack.
Yeah, but I think let's take a moment to digest all this amazing information.
Yes, a good place to pause.
And we'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the fascinating world of social intelligence.
Looking forward to it.
So stay tuned.
See you then.
Oh.
So we were just talking about the treatment prison in Missouri and those really promising results.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, right?
It is. It really highlights the transformative power of social intelligence.
Right, and it makes me think, how can we apply these insights to our own lives?
That's a great question.
Like most of us aren't working in prisons,
Right.
but these principles of social intelligence, they seem so relevant for everyone.
They are absolutely. Whether you're navigating family dynamics
Yeah.
or building stronger connections at work or just trying to be more mindful in your daily interactions,
Right.
these skills can make a real difference.
So it's not just about those big dramatic moments.
Yeah.
It's about the small everyday interactions.
Exactly. It's about those little moments that add up over time.
Right, those little things that we do.
Exactly. And it all starts with cultivating those core skills we talked about earlier.
Okay, so attunement, emotional regulation,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, empathy.
Yes. Empathy is crucial.
It is. But I have a question about that.
Okay.
Can you really learn to be more empathetic?
Yes, you can.
Really?
It's a skill that can be developed with practice.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's not something you're just born with.
So how do we do that?
Well, one powerful technique is active listening.
Okay, active listening.
It's about truly focusing on what the other person is saying, both verbally and non-verbally,
Okay.
without interrupting or judging.
So it's more than just hearing the words.
It is.
It's really absorbing the message.
Yes, and connecting with the emotions behind it.
Right, so you're paying attention to their body language.
Yes.
Their tone of voice.
All of it.
Those subtle cues that reveal what's really going on.
Exactly. You're trying to understand their perspective.
It makes you realize how much we miss when we're not fully present in a conversation.
We do. We miss a lot.
Right, and it takes real effort to tune in on that level.
It does, but the payoff is huge.
Yeah, because when we feel truly heard and understood,
Right.
it strengthens our connection.
Absolutely.
It builds trust.
It's the foundation of a strong relationship.
Okay, so active listening is a good starting point.
It is.
What else?
Goleman also highlights the importance of perspective taking.
Okay, perspective taking.
It's about consciously trying to see things from the other person's point of view,
Okay.
even if it's different from your own.
Right, so you set aside your own biases,
Yes.
your assumptions,
You try to step into their shoes.
and you really try to understand
their
Their
experience.
motivations.
Their motivations.
It reminds me of that example with the photo of the crying woman.
Yes.
Right? People initially saw sadness,
Right.
but then their perspective shifted.
And they saw joy.
Yeah.
It's a powerful example
It is.
of how perspective taking can change our entire emotional experience.
Right. And how it can help us connect with others.
On a deeper level.
Yeah. Okay. This is all really helpful.
Good.
But I got to be honest.
Okay.
It can be really hard to put these techniques into practice.
I understand.
When you're in the heat of the moment,
Yes.
you know when emotions are running high
It's tough.
and you just want to react
Right.
impulsively.
I'll have those moments.
Any tips for staying cool under pressure?
Well, the key is to develop the self-awareness to catch yourself
Right.
before you say or do something you regret.
Right. So it's like hitting that pause button.
Exactly.
Easier said than done, though.
It is. It takes practice.
Right.
One helpful technique is to identify your triggers,
Okay. My triggers.
those situations, or people that tend to push your button.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Once you know what sets you off,
Right.
you can come up with strategies for managing those situations more effectively.
So if I know that traffic always makes me grumpy, yes, I could have a plan.
Have a plan.
Like listening to a podcast.
Or taking some deep breaths.
Right. Or just, reminding myself to stay calm.
Exactly. By anticipating those triggers
Right.
and having a plan in place.
You're less likely to be hijacked by those emotions.
Exactly. You're taking control
I like that.
instead of letting your emotions control you.
Okay. This is good stuff.
Good. I'm glad you're finding it helpful.
I am. I really am. I do have one more question, though.
Okay.
Are some people just naturally wired for this?
That's an interesting question. And while genetics might play a small role,
Okay.
social intelligence is not something you're stuck with.
Okay.
It's a set of skills you can learn and develop over time,
Regardless of your personality.
regardless of your personality.
So it's not about being an extrovert or an introvert.
It's about the effort you put in.
It's about cultivating these qualities.
Exactly.
That's great to hear.
Good.
Because it means we all have the potential
Yes.
to become more socially intelligent. And, speaking of growth,
Yes.
I'm curious about what Goleman has to say about raising kids
Ah, yes.
with strong social intelligence.
It's so important.
It is, can we as parents
Yes.
help our children develop these skills?
Absolutely. Goleman emphasizes the importance of starting early.
Okay.
Even
Yeah.
in infancy,
Oh, wow.
we can create an environment that fosters social and emotional development.
So even tiny babies can benefit from this?
They can.
Wow.
Well, responding to a baby's cries with warmth and attention,
Right.
engaging in playful interactions,
Right.
providing opportunities for social exploration.
Yeah.
All of these things
Yeah.
lay the foundation for strong social skills later in life.
It's amazing to think those early experiences can have
Yes.
such a big impact.
They do. They shape a child's view of themselves
Yeah.
and their relationships with others.
Wow. Okay, so what about as kids get older
Yeah.
and they start navigating more complex social situations?
Right.
What can we do to support them then?
Yeah. Well, one of the most important things we can do as parents is to model healthy social behavior.
Right.
Children are like sponges.
They're always watching.
They're absorbing everything they see and hear.
Right. So if they see us treating others with respect,
Yes.
empathy, understanding,
They're more likely to adopt those behaviors themselves.
it's not just about what we tell them.
No.
It's about how we act.
Our actions speak volumes.
They really do.
Yeah.
And we can also talk to them about emotions.
Yes.
Right.
Help them identify and express their feelings in
Right.
healthy ways.
Yeah.
Teach them conflict resolution skills.
Like how to listen, how to compromise,
Exactly.
how to find those win-win solutions.
It's about giving them the tools
Yeah.
to navigate the social world successfully.
That's amazing. And it's a gift that we can give them
It is.
that will last a lifetime.
A lifetime.
So as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm curious about one more thing.
Okay.
What does Goleman say about self-awareness?
Yes. Self-awareness.
How does that fit into the picture?
It's crucial.
Real.
Self-awareness is all about understanding your own strengths and weaknesses,
Okay.
your triggers, your patterns of behavior.
So it's like taking a deep look inward
Exactly.
and really getting to know yourself.
Yes.
So it's like the foundation
It's the foundation of social intelligence.
for all these other skills.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
allows you to recognize how your actions impact others.
Right.
And make conscious choices about how you want to show up in the world.
So if we're not aware of our own biases
Right.
and tendencies,
We're bound to keep repeating the same mistakes.
We're just going to keep bumping into the same walls.
Exactly. Self-awareness gives you the power to
Yeah.
break free from those negative cycles.
And choose a more conscious path.
A more intentional path.
This is great stuff.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I am. I really am. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
So let's take a moment to process all this.
Yes, a good place to pause.
And we'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of social intelligence.
Sounds good.
So much good stuff about social intelligence.
There really is, you know.
And I'm thinking about how it all connects right from empathy
Mm-hmm.
to self-awareness and how it can help us
Right.
build those strong relationships.
Yes, it's all interconnected.
Thanks.
And it's not just about personal well-being.
Right.
It's about the well-being of society as a whole.
Exactly. And, as we're navigating
Yes.
this increasingly digital world,
Right.
I think it's even more important
It is
to cultivate
be mindful
these human-centric skills.
of those human connections.
Yeah, like how do we stay connected
Right.
on a deeper level when we're
Yeah.
constantly bombarded with
Yeah.
all this virtual interaction?
It's easy to get lost in the digital world
It is.
and forget about the importance of face-to-face
Right.
connection.
And it's so easy to just, be on our phones all the time.
It's a constant temptation.
Yeah, so how do we resist that pull?
Well, I think it starts with being intentional
Yeah.
about how we use technology.
Okay.
Instead of letting it control us,
Right.
we can choose to use it as a tool to
Right.
enhance our relationships.
Okay.
So, for example,
Yeah.
instead of scrolling through social media during dinner with friends,
Right.
you could put your phone away and actually engage in a conversation.
Yeah.
Those face-to-face interactions where you can read each other's body language and pick up on those subtle emotional cues?
They're so important.
They're irreplaceable.
So we're making that conscious effort
Yes,
to cultivate those real-world connections.
exactly. And those connections, they nourish us on a deeper level.
Right.
They contribute to our happiness, our sense of belonging, our overall well-being.
It's like we're rediscovering the power of simply being human,
I love that.
right? Like connecting with each other heart to heart.
Yes, it's about those genuine human interactions.
And it's not about being perfect,
No, not at all.
right? It's about progress.
It's about striving to understand ourselves and others better.
It's a journey.
It's a lifelong journey.
This has been so insightful.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it.
I have. I really have. Any final words of wisdom?
Well, I would say embrace the messiness
Okay.
of human interaction.
Embrace the messiness.
Yes, it's in those imperfect moments.
Yeah.
The misunderstandings, the conflicts,
Mhm.
that we have the greatest opportunity
Right.
for growth and deeper connection.
Oh, that's good.
It's not about avoiding those difficult moments.
Right.
It's about navigating them
Yeah.
with empathy and understanding.
So every interaction is a chance to practice our
Exactly.
social intelligence skills.
It's a constant learning process.
This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of social intelligence.
My pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed it and that you'll keep exploring these ideas.
Keep learning. Keep connecting.
Until next time, keep diving deep.